One and all, thank you so much for joining us today. Our conversation today is being shared across multiple continents and multiple time zones. We thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to having a really fruitful talk on lighting that moves the imagination. Without further ado, welcome to the iGuzzini Experience Center right here in Dubai. We are here today to celebrate two key milestones, a new beginning and a new landscape. iGuzzini has been present in the region for over 2 decades. They have an absolute rock-solid portfolio of built work that has stood the test of time, and without a doubt, they are an international leader within our industry. Today, they reiterate their commitment to design with this gorgeous experience center right here in Dubai Design District. For all the designers that have tuned in, we highly, highly recommend a visit. It is truly a spectacle and a sensorial experience. Now that we have a fantastic location for ideation, the second milestone for discussion is what lies ahead. In a world that is constantly evolving, how do we as designers think of the future? What are going to be the priorities of the design ecosystem? What is lighting going to look like? What lies ahead in the future? As we all know, a simple lighting fixture can make or break a space. It can take a space from being cozy to being dramatic, and infinitely worse, making it completely forgettable. So, to discuss this topic today, we are joined by an absolute rock star panel, a true cross-section of our design ecosystem, wherein we have expertise in architecture, interior design, media, lighting, and education. They also cover diverse geographies and international markets. So, joining us today on my left is Nikita Celani, Associate at Roar, followed by Cristiano Venturini, Group CEO of iGuzzini, Mr. Mehdi Laib, CEO and Principal Lighting Designer at Ombrage in Canada, France, and Morocco. And finally, and by no means least, we are joined by Ms. Shireen Sarufim, Interior Architect and Lighting Designer at Atelier Sarufim. She is a Women in Lighting Ambassador for Lebanon and an IALD board member. So, we're going to start off pretty light because we have people joining us from all over the world. The first thing that we want to talk about is obviously lighting, but specifically to you personally. What is lighting to you?
So lighting to me is an emotional compass. And I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. In spirituality, they say that light is within you and it guides you. When you watch a horror movie, they say, follow the light and you will be safe, right? But as designers, I feel that we decide where to place the light for people to find it. And not just to find it, but also we can decide people's emotions based on the type of light, the color of light, and the style of light that we place. So if I tomorrow put a strobe light in my office, I'm going to have a rave party for sure. But that's all in my hands, which is why I feel like lighting to me is definitely an emotional compass, because it allows us to play with people's emotions.
Very true. Cristiano?
Well, I totally agree, first of all, and thank you for addressing me like a rock star. Actually, the three of them are rock star in designing, actually. I cannot really hold a pencil, so thank you very much for trusting me on that, but actually, not well deserved. Regarding myself, after working for almost 18 years in iGuzzini, I have a feeling for light. And for me, light, maybe I can be naive, but it's life. Why is that? Because now here we are trying to describe the artificial light. But for us at iGuzzini, the best light is the natural one, the solar one. So the one that gives really life to our trees, to everyone, to ourselves as well. And in iGuzzini, we are not really humble because we aim at replicating the solar light. So the light that is comfortable, the light that is not invasive, the light that describes or accompany, our rhythm in life. So a life that puts back the human in the center of his environment.
Wow, it's a very good answer.
Thank you.
For me, regarding ideas like what the people wants to see. For me, it's very interesting to understand what the people, not us, not architect, not lighting designer, like everyday people love. Because sometimes we design something special for a project and for an architect and for a client want something different. But for me, the most important thing is what the people love in the lighting. It's a different approach from the market, but I love this kind of approach because look like my mother. My mother loved many lights. Like so she looks like something, a classical design. She's oh wow. But for an architect and for me, sometimes it's not. It's not good. But it's important to us to understand what the people love. That's what for me is the light. Anyway.
Okay. Shireen?
I love how it's going to be so different. So what I like is everything you've said, the three of you, is what I think, but the major part is, for me, light is a right. Because it's something that nobody has, and until you figure out that you cannot live without light, because I come from Lebanon, so we are considered as a light poor, hit by light poverty. So until you are hit by this, you don't know how much lighting is important, because it's it gives you life, it gives you a feeling of safety, it gives you the right to have a future. And this is something that everybody is taking for granted in the rest of the world, but it is actually a subject that is very current in the international positioning. So I think it's a privilege to have light. We don't look at it this way, and it's a right to have light.
Wow. I think if we kind of can summarize it, I think what is interesting is that none of us really mentioned the technical side of lighting, right? No one's really talking about a fixture or a spec, but we're all really seeing the impact that lighting has on us and our lives, which is actually much greater than even architecture and interior design, I would think, to an extent. For sure. That's quite cool. So I kind of then want to pivot a little bit, and just before we do that, I'd like to remind everyone that's listening and watching us that we do have a Q&A session that will happen towards the end of our panel. And if you do have anything that you find of interest, feel free to drop it in the chat, and we'll definitely try to get to you. So coming back to our conversation, it's clear that there are very good examples of good lighting. I think we can all agree that there are good uses of them. But on the flip side, there's also, like I mentioned earlier, sort of the forgettable spaces, because it's not been done as well. So from your experience, because all of you come from diverse fields, what do you think designers or even clients to an extent maybe get wrong about lighting? Maybe it's a perception, maybe it's a lack of knowledge. What do you think they get wrong?
So in the design field especially, what I think is sometimes the client goes like, oh, we don't need a lighting designer. We can just put lighting all over the space and it's going to be fine. And we really push for that. They're like, you're the designer, you can do it. And we're like, we're not the specialist. They're specialists for a reason, because they can then calculate to see if the space really works for us, right? And then when we go wrong as designers is that on the drawing book, we'll be like, oh, that's a beautiful decorative light. I want to put that in the space. But we haven't thought about the height of that light. We haven't thought about the drivers. We haven't thought about all the wiring that those lights come with. So when it arrives to site, we're like, oh no, this is a bit of a problem, right? So I think those are some learnings that you can learn that we don't really consider. Again, you put like flow lamps everywhere and the site's done, you have this beautiful marble and you're like, oh no, I haven't put any flow boxes. So these are things that you don't consider, but then when you, over years of experience, you learn that, okay, fine, these are things that need to be considered from day one. How can we hide the drivers to make it look beautiful still in a space? How can we incorporate small sockets into the flooring from day one in terms of coordination? Because people think that lighting is the last layer.
Yeah.
Lighting is the first layer. Before the walls come up, the lighting should be designed. And I feel like we do this a lot as a practice, right? We study the buildings, sun study, to see how the shadows are coming into the office, how the natural lighting affects the space before we add any architectural lighting. Because I think that is so important, playing with the natural light to make sure that if someone's working overtime, right, the lighting should be designed in a way where there's no shadows around the space where your head then starts affecting. And that just goes back to my first point about thinking that lighting is an emotional compass, because all of these things can play with the psychology that you have in a workspace. It affects it a lot. The way that the workspace is lit,
Right.
it does affect your emotions a lot. So I think these are a few learnings personally that I've had.
Right. And I think that would be the case across international markets as well, right? What's something that you see that you would maybe want to change even?
I'm in business since more than 30 years, and started lighting with the whole lamp, all the sources. And when I started to do lighting design, it was the electronics and the control was not near. It was the basic. And you start lighting, when I started lighting with the lamp, it was so complicated and so easy to do lighting design, because sometimes 13 years ago, we have 3 types of lamp or 4 types of lamp, and you can flash a building like a flat white building or a 3D buildings. And right now it's completely different. We have more technology, more sources, more lens, more capability to do better. And the wrong way right now is many people understand lighting, but they don't understand technicals. And sometimes the people look like a spot, and it's okay, we can put this spot in the facade, but it's a wrong color, wrong power, bad integrations. This is a wrong project at the end, especially on the heritage building. You need to dissimulate the lighting, and on the heritage building, you can scrap a project with a bad design. It's like, right. That's my wrong part.
Wow. True. So do you think the fact that it's become a lot more, in a sense, the industry has evolved so much, and now there's so many more options, it's a lot easier to get it wrong? Would that be fair to say?
Yes, definitely more options. It's like you need to understand the market of lighting right now.
Yeah.
Before it was the market of lighting people. Now it's an electronic market.
Right.
It's not the same way.
Okay.
At the beginning, when you hire a projector, you buy a projector, it's like for 20 years. Right now, it's like 10 years is the maximum for me. You understand it?
True, true. I then want to pivot a bit to Shireen, because you're obviously our sort of vision into the education side of design. With so many options out there, what do you think, should education be sort of involving designers at an early stage, telling them about what's out there with lighting?
Of course, for me, this is something that we've been doing for a long time. So I am lucky to have been teaching for the last 18 years. So I teach back in Lebanon at a university called Académie Libanaise des Beaux-Arts. It's one of the biggest design schools in the region. When I was a student there, because this is where I did my master's in interior architecture, we had one lighting class that was taught by an engineer.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
So so I got lucky. I went to Parsons and learned what good lighting means, and then moved back to Lebanon. And I've been teaching there for 18 years. And from one electrical class, now we have, for the School of Interior Design Architecture, we have 6 classes between technical classes, controls classes, design classes, because it's becoming so complicated. And we don't want our students that will be the future of design to be ignorant in lighting, because it is no longer, we teach it as a material, we don't teach it as an extra element, so they have it and they think about it from the beginning. And what is good about having those students start at as early as their second year of design, which is at the undergrad at a very, very basic level, when they barely know how to design their own spaces, we throw in the idea of light needs to be as a material, not as an addition. So when you educate students, whether they are architecture students, landscapers, or interior designers, because we go through all those students go through our program, they know that even if they are not becoming lighting designer, they know that lighting is part of the design, and they will know how to educate their clients or integrate it in their design and know the language of lighting. And this, for us, is the most important part of the education and the future of the lighting industry.
Yeah, it is at the end of the day a very universal language, like you mentioned. I think good lighting works well anywhere in the world, regardless of language or region or whatever it may be. I then sort of want to pivot to Cristiano and ask you from an iGuzzini point of view, or from an industry point of view, when you meet designers like ourselves, at this point in time, what are we asking of you? When we come to you, what are we saying, this is what we want to see, this is what we want in the future? Are you getting any sort of insight from the industry?
Well, actually, maybe even too many, because the beauty of this sector, or the beauty of a company like iGuzzini, is to work with designers. And the designers are visionary people per definition. So, of course, iGuzzini has been always lucky to work with the best designers around the world. They could be interior designers, they could be architects, they could be, or they are, lighting designers.
Product designers.
Product designers, so just industrial design, just in brackets, industrial designers. So we worked with all these people that has a vision and a strong saying about actual trends and the trends forward. And they help the company to always take the last miles beyond our expectations, beyond our comfort zone. So when we came up with some solutions, because we don't speak anymore about lamps, luminaires, we're speaking about systems and solutions. We're more in the IT world than we could expect, and ever expect until 10 years ago. So when we work in such fields with some professional like the one that visit the company every day, we are pushed to do more and to create something that doesn't exist, and to build along with them a culture of lighting, because at the end of the day we need always to distinguish between good light and bad light. Yes. Because for every kind of inputs that we insert in any project, from any point of view, actually this will determine a good project eventually from a bad one.
Yeah, I think that is kind of interesting you mentioned about input, because I think, like we discussed, now there are just so many inputs that designers need to consider. I'm almost tempted to ask about the forbidden word of AI and how that would work in our field, because it seems like if there is a lot of option to really create a bespoke lighting solution, wherein we're looking at everything from beam angles to CRI to lux, et cetera, and across so many types of spaces, typologies, and things like that, do you think there is a place for AI to kind of come in and speed things along, or do you think it's just going to be another complicated thing that may end up going wrong? This is an open question to everyone, by the way.
Yeah, I have a project with AI right now. It's running in Montreal since 2017. It was the Jacques Cartier Bridge. The control is under AI only. There's no human activity to manage the control. It's the first project I saw like that. We created that with a couple of lighting designers and a couple of producers in Montreal, with like Moment Factory, like a huge experienced designer in the world. And it's very interesting for do that. It's very complicated, definitely. We have a lot of issues at the beginning, but it's still running since 7 years, 8 years. And the bridge is living. It's living. We took RSS files, what's happening on the many sources of like not LinkedIn, but Instagram and something like that, and we keep the key world, and the process of the lighting of the bridge is living like when yes, the Formula One Grand Prix in Montreal, the bridge is moving fast. In the winter, when it's cold, it looks like blue and like it's very interesting to see. You can saw that on YouTube. But for me, my relation with the AI is beginning at this kind of project. But for concept, right now, yes, we're definitely looking at that. Yeah.
And are we seeing that in education as well, I'm assuming?
Oh, it's driven. Like all our students, it's the discussion we've been having in our faculty. Then when we were, it was AutoCAD was taking over, okay, and 3D Max was getting in. And now we have this gap in education between the older professors and our generation that is in the middle, and our students like, oh, AI is doing their projects. Like, no. They need to know how to prompt them. So we've been going through this with our students, making sure that they are conscious enough that they are not going to do their job. AI is not going to do your job. It's, if you know how to manipulate it, you will manage. So we've been working with our students on this, and we're having such a big blast because they can imagine things that a second-year-old or third-year-old student can't imagine before that. It's like when we got 3D Max, it's like, oh, wow. And this culture is in our office also because we have training, we have students that are coming. And I think that it is, if you know how to use it, it can become something so much more powerful than any other design thing we've ever had before. It's amazing. We're having fun.
True. Yeah. And I think, I mean, to be honest, the work that comes out of Roar, for example, I think it's very evident that you guys have sort of mastered that workflow to an extent. So I'm curious to know, when it comes to lighting specifically, were there any hurdles that you came across? And if there are designers listening in and watching, if there were such hurdles, how did you guys overcome that? Was it something like a simple prompt, or was it some kind of a render engine? Was it a fixture type when it comes to lighting specifically?
So we usually do work with lighting designers. So if there's anything, there is always a specialist that's helping us out with that, right? But like you said, we're having so much fun with it. And I don't think AI is taking over. I just feel like it's making all of our jobs so much more efficient. And when it comes to probably having an issue with lighting on site, you're on site, just quickly put a prompt, because as a specialist, I know what the issue is, right? And I need a quick solution. I'll put a prompt, I'll get a quick solution, I'll be like, this works, this doesn't work. I can only decide if it works or not. AI is not going to tell me what works, right? Yeah. But it will definitely make it much more efficient and faster. The whole process is going to be much more faster. And when it comes to being creative, right? We now make your job tougher, because then we go to the lighting designer and we're like, this is what AI has come up with. This is what we want. And they'll be like, no. And we'll be like, no, but that challenges you more and us more to create something which nobody has ever created, right? So I think that's what's super exciting about it, because I have had people come up to me with renders that have been done by AI. Both of them have been given the same task. One is amazing, one is not so nice. And that's because of the prompt, like you said, going back to the drawing book of the prompt, right? So when it comes to them AI taking over, no, I don't think so. But solving our hurdles, 100%. I think it's a great tool to use. It just increases all of our efficiency and lets us focus on what we're good at doing, you know?
Awesome, awesome. I'm getting notifications that there are quite a few Q&As that are lining up in the background. So hopefully we can expand upon this. Yeah. But just as we kind of wind down the panel, this is a good time to sort of look ahead, because this is, after all, lighting that moves our imagination. So I would want to hear from each of you. At this moment in time, what excites you about lighting? What are you looking to see happen in the future? It could be across any breakthrough in technology. It could be philosophical. What really excites you about lighting at this time?
So my answer is going to be a bit different to that, right? So we recently started doing a lot of study on the circadian lighting and neurodiversity, right? And how that can, going back to you on how you said the daylight is so important, right? So what I mean by that is how a person's brain, we just recently designed a stall where we studied a human's brain frequencies through the day. So as soon as you wake up, you're in an alpha, and then you go to a delta. And how can lighting play with those emotions, right? So what if we design a workspace where throughout the day, the lighting of the workspace changes as per the daylight outside?
Fairly subtly.
It settles down. So as soon as you enter, it's a bit bright. So you're like, okay, this is what the sunlight is doing outside. So you're always feeling like you're in an outdoor space, and your body is automatically feeling so much more emotionally stronger. So I feel like what I would want to see in the future is a lot of this psychological design that goes into lighting, and not just because the technology is there.
Right.
We've touched that, and I think where every single day there's a new product, every second there's a new product, so that's already going. But now we need to see how we can play with what we have and actually think about the people. Like lighting is a right. So how we go back to that right and actually give to match that light is what my understanding of the future of lighting would be.
True, true. Cristiano, I have to hear your answer. What's exciting for you?
Well, I think we're living, after the LED came onto the stage for our sector, now we're living a second strong evolution. So we're not speaking about luminaires anymore, we're speaking about smart systems, solutions that we need to provide designer to take that centimeter more. In what sense? For example, yes, I totally agree with them. The AI is present and is so supportive, not substituting anyone, but is so supportive of a company process or processes, but also to try to create the next generation products or solutions. Where we are heading, actually I'm seeing this sector changing, where products are, I don't know if I can say something like that, but less important in the proposition value of a company. What does that mean? We must have, for a company like iGuzzini, high-end products, top solution, top technology and top quality. We need to ensure that, but that is always, and even more, given for granted. What we need to provide in our proposition value is a brand that communicates the value within the sector, and that puts the service centric or centered in the strategy to make the life for our stakeholders easier. In that way, we can compete and distinguish ourselves, because otherwise we can create a culture of lighting in a parallel way, but it takes much longer than satisfying our stakeholders out there, and it's not just the product, the answer anymore, because LED made this sector so democratic. A smart solution is making the sector a different one from the one it was before.
Right. So I think to sort of bridge that gap and get the stakeholder closer towards the value proposition, do you think there's a role of education to an extent by vendors like yourself, or is the onus on the stakeholder to sort of educate themselves?
All of them. All of them. Education is where we start. All of us, we start and we daily continue to improve as professionals. Education. I'm getting something out of you guys, so I'm really thankful. No? So I'm educating myself now as well. So wonderful, of course. So yes, but then not only. We start from there. We need to be conscious about the importance of that, and then we need to exploit, the education we got with the instruments we have.
Yeah,
That's
a good future. I'm excited for that to happen. That sounds really cool.
I'm between excited
and a bit
scared.
nervous. A bit nervous. A bit
Of
nervous.
course. And a bit nervous,
All right.
of course.
All right. Mahdi, thoughts?
Yes. For the future for me is have more integrated products in the building. When you looking at the roof and use so many holes on the roof, on ventilations, HVAC, sound detectors, it's a lot of stuff in the roof. And for me, the future was integrate. Like I do some project like that with integrate lighting in the diffuser and on Because, yes, because for me it's the future, because the project running fast, and lighting is a profession. Like you have electrician, you have HVAC, you have many professions on the building. And integration is always complicated. We use Revit like for coordinate the project, but I think in the future we need to integrate one module with everything inside it. I think it's the future. But the problem is like, right now, lighting is driven by electronics, okay? But each product are driven by like HVAC, lighting, but nobody talk each other. This is the problem in the market, because sometimes you have a nice project, but when you look at the roof, oh my God, there's a lot of hole and something. You can scrap a project like that. Add the camera, add the security, add everything on it.
Right.
For me, the future needs to talk about it.
A single unit. That's also quite exciting, I must say. Shireen?
So funny enough, last year we had a project through all the different departments within ALBA, and the question was, what is the future of light and lighting? So we had almost 50 students from different departments work together to figure out what would be the problematics that we will be facing. Because now we're still talking now. What are our problems, or what is the integration that we need, or what? But actually those students were thinking about how the population is going to be aging. What are their problems in concentration, something that our generation doesn't have an issue with, but younger generations, they can't. They have multiple TikToks in parallel, and then you can make it even faster just to go it. So they for like, I think it was a project for 3 months where they worked in groups and tried to figure out what are the problems that we will be facing in 5, 10, 15 years. And several projects came out. So we talked about safety and lighting. We talked about, obviously, light poverty, because this is a subject that in Lebanon we're very keen on. We talked about aging communities. And each one of those, the team started creating solutions, because it wasn't lighting fixture. It was a solution to answer a problem that currently, actually, nobody in the field is talking about. Aging society. How can a lighting become something that, like a companion? Light poverty, cities that are turned off after hours. It's not only in underdeveloped countries. It's a country after a disaster, like the fires in Los Angeles, the hurricane, or a war in Ukraine. So all of this is not only in regions of the world where you would think it will not hit us. It is there. So this, I think, it's the human part of the future that, as technology is getting more developed, we are tending to forget about those people and just concentrate on AI, on solutions, and on technology, but forgetting the human in the product. And I think as much as development is happening and technology is there, us as human beings are not changing. So we need to go back to the source and think about a human-centric design.
Got it. I think that all ties back very well into sort of the topic of our panel, which is imagination, light that moves imagination. And I think we've covered so many interesting sectors, although fairly briefly, I must say, but I think there's so much food for thought in what we've all shared. And again, I can see that there really are questions that are showing up. So very shortly, those will be handed to me, I'm sure. As the very first one that we have received, thank you so much. We have one over here, which is pretty interesting, which is the cultural context of lighting, which is, the question reads out, Dubai blends tradition with futuristic design. Anyone who's been here would agree. In some cases, the futuristic part has been pushed a bit much, and in some cases, it's been held back. But the question is, how can lighting respect cultural identity while also pushing innovation forward? It's a bit of an open-ended question, so whoever wants to jump at it, feel free to. Go for it.
Can you just guess our question? Because being present all around the world and light and us, we cannot be invasive in the local culture. So if we look at what we produce and we give to our markets, it's not the same. Every country has its own habits in terms of lighting. Some examples. In China, in the APAC area, they love the strong comfort. So they're not into the energy saving or no lumen per watt, etc., etc. They just want dramatic sceneries. So dark and a little bit of light, dark, which is something that in Europe we go after lumen per watt. And so if I look at what I'm also selling or proposing, is completely different in terms of optics, in terms of the grades, in terms of materials, in terms of shape. So one size doesn't fit all. And how? Why? Because we need to respect the local behavior, the local habits, and the local culture. Because, as again, lighting cannot be invasive. It must be accessory and needs to put the person, so the culture, in the center of its environment.
Okay. Anyone want to add on? Cultural context within lighting? Difficult to think about, right?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult, but I think also, like you said, not to be invasive. Also, we have to think about the clothes that we wear over here, right? So how the light hits the conduras, how it, it needs to be done in a way that it's not offensive. But thinking more in the designer decorative part of things, right? I feel like the Emirati designers are coming up with some really cool things where they're really cutting edge now, and they're not just designing small pieces, but they've started designing a lot of cool lighting fixtures, which is again inspired by our cultural context. It could be like the sadhu weaving or the pearl diving, and how can we bring those sort of decorative features into lighting? I think that's how we could mix it a little bit. That would be very cool, right?
Yeah.
Imagine like a weave with a few lights that you have through. That's how we can bring that culture, a flying magic carpet which is lit.
Yeah, there is precedence of very controlled and very thought of lighting within the region. I mean, Mashrabias, for example, are a very good, literal product that was used to actually filter out and screen the amount of light that actually enters a space.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there is possibility for it. But I'm curious about internationally as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, it's a good question, definitely, because I'm working in North America, in Europe, in Africa right now. It's completely different. The perception of lighting is depend on your culture. Okay, when I'm born and raised in Paris, I'm studying in Paris the lighting. When I arrived in America 25 years ago, I think was 4 or 5 lighting designers in North America. It's not so long. It's like 30 years. And when I start to educate the people in the province of Quebec or in Canada, the people don't understand when I talk. Well, lighting, okay, lighting. You put a light, the switch on is lighting, and they put the luminaire like that, says, okay, lighting is good. Education is very important in every place in the world. We work right now in Morocco, and we design and create the biggest master plan of lighting of the city of Casablanca. It's the 5 years of work to understand what the people have and what the people want and what we provided. It's education. Look at the city of Casablanca. We have a poverty quarters, a business quarters, heritage quarters. It's completely different to manage a lighting master plan like a whole things. You need to talk with the people, and it's a lot of discussions to have. But the lighting master plan is closed right now, and they make it and they produce what we design it right now. But it's very important for us to educate each people of the society. Not the architect, not the designer, but the mayor of the city, the prime minister of the country, because it's the key to open and open your eyes on what you have in the city. But it's very important. Like we talk about like in architecture, but in the city, it's very important. Sparks and heritage building is, for me, is the life of the city.
I think your answer has, I mean, there are so many questions that have come up, but I think your answer really leads into this one that's really striking out to me. And this may be the last question, unfortunately, just because we may be running out of time. But the question comes from, I'm assuming it's a lighting designer that's asked this question. It says, light pollution. And it's talking about cities have a skyline that is typically bright at night. And as designers, typically clients ask us to say, I want my building to stand out. I want my building to be, you know, what everyone looks at. But if every building does that, can you now start to see a building, or does it just become one big glare? So the question is, as designers, how can we still achieve dramatic lighting effects without really sort of saying, hey, look at me? Thoughts?
I like the discussion about light pollution. So there's in our field now, and everybody's talking about chasing the dark. And talk about that because a couple of years ago we were at Enlighten in Berlin, and we had the talk about, everybody was talking light pollution, chasing the dark, but nobody knows how dark is difficult once it chases you. So we had Lebanon with no light for 2 years, no dark. After dark, 6 o'clock, streets are empty. So this discussion is to go back to, yes, there is light pollution, and yes, we need to turn down our cities. And I think Singapore did a study, I think, if I'm not mistaken, with Piers Major, and they did a study to tone down the full city with keeping the background and the skyline. But you will never know the worth of a city that has light until you have seen your city at dark. Yes. So and from my point of view, I have a different way of seeing it. But I understand the need to have less light, but sometimes it gets to the point where we have barely light and you don't want to have that.
So do you think there needs to be almost like an urban designer for cities, but a city lighting planner to an extent, where someone sort of like literally curates everything?
Yeah. I think that's the way it would be done. Like you said, like you've been studying about Casablanca for 5 years.
Yeah.
Which makes the difference, right?
You know, our job is putting light in the life, okay? And I understand the dark light, but it's very important to know who using the light, okay? An example, in Casablanca, we have a sector in Casablanca is so poor. Okay, when I'm talking about the people and the city, we don't want to put light. There's no money here. But yes, there's no money. But if you don't put light, they continue to have poor security, dangerous way. The people don't want to come here. Another example, we designed in a city in the north of Montreal, Saint-Jérôme. Before it was industrial city, was many jobs, and years after years they lose the job, and the city was going down. The security was bad, many crazy things, and the people don't want to come to the restaurant because it's dangerous, and the city doesn't like. We make a master plan. We change all the light of the buildings, but sometimes it's just a small application. But we're changing like I think it's 26 buildings on the city. And we're changing definitely the way of the commercial avenue, and the restaurant is still opening. And it's important to know what you want to do with light. Definitely dark dark sky is important for many things, but you can do many things with lights too. Yeah. We have an example. We do a lighting master plan of the church area in the dark sky reserve. And we work with the guys to the observatory, and they approve our concept because we have techniques for that. And it's a nice project, and we can do that. Yeah. Just more application and more engineering behind that.
Agree.
Actually, there is sensitivity coming also into the governments around the world. So, iGuzzini started in mid-80s to advertise around the world with the night bird and hawk with the sunglasses. So, like to say, with all this pollution, I cannot see, and to respect people, it means respect the environment, also the animals, etc. So we have this sensitivity in our cores. But apart from that, then we need to build on that. Many regulations are coming in order to manage this. But then, a few years ago, one ministry of the Italian Republic said, okay, the electricity cost is going up, let's switch off the lights. No, it's not that the point. The point, and the time I think there was still Adolfo, he got very angry, because that is not the point. The point, with no light, we don't have social meetings. We don't have, we go back to a sort of a COVID period, no? Somehow, because there's no safety. There is no activity, so we cannot live as human for the time we would like to live, but we're just managed by the daylight, which is a little bit a strong limitation. So it's not a matter of switching off the light, it's a matter of having a good designer imagining the projects, the master plan, in order to using the right companies to manage the right project forward. But then there is also a study we participated of some years ago with the London School of Economics. Take a place, like Mehdi was saying, maybe poor or with some forgotten a little bit by the city center, put the lights, put a nice design, and let's see if the place regenerates. It regenerates.
Yes,
It will.
Yeah.
It regenerates because people, human beings, we're not different, we're the same. We are natural bodies that for the last 3,000, 4,000 or 50,000 years, I'm not a neuroscientist, but we've been more or less the same. Yes, we evolved, but the basics are still there. And so what we want? We want being in society, being safe, and living our spaces in a decent way.
Yeah. Lighting truly can bring us all together.
But the most problem in lighting for the pollution lighting is the street lighting.
Yeah.
It's not our jobs. We do street lighting sometimes on the master plan, but look what's happening with the street lighting right now.
Yeah. There's uplights, downlights, side
It's everything.
That is the cost for the city. I understand that, and they prefer to give us a new rules of lighting pollution to manage their street lighting.
I think there's a lot that we've spoken about today, going from philosophy to actual technical products to education to even governance, which is really refreshing. Unfortunately, we are slightly out of time, so I'm going to document all of our thoughts and have it reachable to everyone that's tuned in. And hopefully we can take the conversation forward, because the whole point of these panels is to exchange ideas, and hopefully somewhere someone thinking says, I can probably do something about that. And that's how we probably get change. So on that note, I want to thank all of you. For giving us your time, and for everyone that tuned in and heard our conversation. And we look forward to having more of these in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.